Me coming from Africa, I came here.
What's going on, YouTube? It's the Bushy Beard, and I'm back, and I'm bushier than ever. What was that? I'm back, and I'm bushier than ever. Right now, we got Jubilee, Middle Ground, and this one is: Did slavery affect your family? Africans versus African Americans. I think this is going to be an interesting topic, and I'm here just more so to get educated. Than really to comment. I'll probably make comments throughout. This is what this is. It's a reaction channel, so it is what it is. But I think it's interesting, and I'm sure it'll be a good dialogue, and there will be educational points in it that I think I'll be able to get something from. So this is a little bit longer of a video. It's 25 minutes, so my video will probably be a little bit longer. So grab some popcorn, grab a drink, and let's get into it. The topic is: Did slavery affect your family? Africans versus African Americans, middle ground. And I love these middle ground series because they really do bring light to different points of views. And I think as Americans, as a world, we need to be able to see each other's point of view and understand that just because our opinions differ doesn't necessarily mean that we hate each other. And so I think stuff like this really helps get that message out.
To better my life, and I feel like personally we need to stop using the word racism when we don't get something or when something don't go our way, and just
let me jump in real quick. No disrespect, but racism exists, and I have to acknowledge it, and I can't just ignore it. But what I can do is not buy into the system.
Step forward if you agree. Slavery affected my family.
Already off bat, we got really different views from the African Americans, or I'll just say Americans. It makes it a little bit easier, and it's true. And the Africans. Interesting. I'm excited to see where this kind of goes.
Yeah, I mean, that's just evident in my last name, King. I mean, that's the brand of the slave owner that put that name on my family all those years ago, and I'm still wearing it in those ways, along with the compounded, economic disparity, social disparity, mental trauma, all of that. I mean, it's tethered forever.
So to go back to slavery and talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, it has never stopped. So there is no post. What my great-grandparents were teaching my grandparents, who taught my mother, who taught me, came from what they learned through slavery. So there's a lot of fear, a lot of insecurity, a fear of society, a fear of law enforcement. So slavery has made a major impact where the low self-esteem is consistently reoccurring. I think for me, growing up...
I mean, interesting point of view. It's interesting to think about. I would think over time what you're taught would be different, and I'm sure, especially grandparents and parents going through the civil rights era, and he actually probably was probably, I don't know his exact age, don't want to, label it anything, but he probably was alive and, remembers the civil rights era, which it was a huge time in American history, and understandably, it probably had some impact on him.
Up in Los Angeles, California in the early 1960s, there was a stereotype that I didn't want to be black, I didn't want to be African because we come from Africa or we're slaves. So I want to be a Chinese boy, I want to be Bruce Lee. So growing up like that, I didn't like myself and who I was. I didn't like the color of my skin or the way that I spoke. So I emulated other people. I wanted to be something that I was not.
It's very saddening when you can literally only go back a couple generations and then it's like the documents just don't exist. There's no record. It's like, my family has completely been erased. In that same point too, in the time that we've been here, we've created an incredible culture and we have so many things to be proud of. And I always reframe the narrative myself, and I speak of my ancestors that were enslaved as, doctors and healers, and it's like, we were taken because we were talented,
right.
Because we had skills to offer. And we built this country. So
And still building.
and still building. That's something to take pride in. So
Can the disagreeer step forward?
Slavery didn't affect my family, but we did suffer a different type of slavery back home. Like we went through colonization. Like I am Bamileke. There was a massacre of Bamileke. You guys can like look it up. They killed like more than.
Ballen War is the name of the independent struggle between the Ballen Cameroon's nationalist movement and France. The movement was spearheaded by the Cameroonian People Union. Even after independence, the rebellion continued shaping contemporary politics. The war began with riots in 1955 and continued after Cameroon gained independence. Interesting.
And 300,000 of my people, because we didn't want to assimilate to the French culture. But it's still nothing compared to what you guys' ancestor like been through, you know?
I wouldn't want to minimize that pain, though. What you just said hurt me, that 300,000 people were killed because they would not conform to the colonization of the French people. So that is just as painful and hurtful as the trauma that we suffered here in America.
I can't share the same experience that you have went through and your family. Even though we also had our own type of slavery, we had apartheid at the time, you know, where the Dutch people took over and they wanted to just have South Africa, Namibia, and I think other countries where we could only just speak Dutch. It's somehow still happening even now. There's like a place in South Africa where it's called Orania, you know, and it's just Dutch people there. No black person is even allowed there. So we still somehow feel that oppression even now, but it's nothing compared to what your ancestral history, you know, has gone through. I'm somehow happy that you guys have forgiven it, even though you haven't forgotten it.
That's interesting. I think it's comparable, and it's an interesting fact that they don't see it as comparable, in what they've gone through, especially 300,000 people slaughtered. That's a lot of people, and I would say that's probably comparable to American slavery at the time. I didn't live in either of those, so it's hard for me to say it's absolutely comparable, but it's just, maybe it's a difference of a mindset between the two groups.
Have you forgiven it? I mean, like your face, like.
Do that, but me personally, no, I haven't. But I want to work through the change. But no, I have not forgiven because it's a system that's still going on. And from what I'm hearing from you guys, there's a system that's still going on in Africa as well, and it's a war on us.
Racism is the main cause of poverty among black people in America.
Racism is a very big issue that, talking about it, I'm really trying to be careful to not like say anything that will be insensitive. If opportunity is right here, they will give it to people of other race than African American and Africans too. So if there's a job that maybe have math requirement, I feel like they'll pick an Asian person, or they believe, oh, African Americans will not dress appropriate, so they will pick another person. They will always like pick people that are not black over people that are black.
And I also think, I think the crucial like missing point when we talk about economic disparity, time is the most valuable currency. And if you have like a stock that's like the American dream is the stock, and you know, during all that time, all that asset, the American dream was appreciating, and you're not allowed to take out business loans, you're not allowed to read, you're not allowed to write, you had to first fight to become 3/5 of a citizen, then you got Jim Crow, and then you got everything else. It's like, you're now having to buy in at a price so high because the time is irreparable. You can't get that back.
And see, I guess what I would kind of disagree with, and only disagree because, you know, I've seen it in others, are when immigrants come here, they have next to nothing. And they're able to, within generations, gain a lot of wealth. And I don't know if it's necessarily comparable because just situational wise, but it's I've seen it, and I guess to me, and again, it might just go back to the mindset, right? Is the fact that, you know, people have to have this mindset is damaging to their ability to get forward in life. And it's a sad reality that, sometimes the mindset of people can really come down to how they eventually get to their outcomes. I think America is like one of the only places where if you're born in the bottom 5%, you're likely not to die there. You're likely to be way above that 5% by the time you're done. And the American dream is alive. It's just being able to capitalize on it is a completely different set of skills.
One black person today cannot, in one lifetime, achieve what generations of white families were able to do simply because they didn't have to compete with us to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you totally.
Yeah, I was thinking just like.
But it doesn't mean you can't start it, right? Maybe not in one generation, but if you're the start of the change, in 4 or 5 generations, you have your family set up for prosperity, right? So it's a shift in mindset. Don't try to catch up to them in one generation, but over generations, get to where you be on that level, I guess, is what you can say. But, it just starts with one. That's all it is.
Like you said, from a historical standpoint, we start with slavery, then that's centuries, generations of stolen labor, like you said. Then we get into Jim Crow, which is just an extension of that. Then we have redlining, we have mass incarceration, we have events like the...
Yeah, mass incarceration, I think, is a big one. On the federal level, at least, with the 93 crime bill and different things of that nature, I think definitely left a mark that should not have been done. And one thing I was looking for from Biden when he ran for president was whether or not he was going to apologize for the 93 crime bill, and he did, and I think it was sincere. At least I hope it was sincere, because I think it was damaging at the end of the day.
Bombing of Tulsa and Rosewood in Florida and all these different examples of our wealth being decimated. And I don't say that to come from a defeatist or a victim mindset, but I think if we just have an honest conversation about history and what we've gone through when we've been here, racism is definitely a big part of that. And there are a lot of successful black Americans, a lot of millionaires, a lot of, business owners, but they're exceptions for sure for a reason. And there's a big difference between income and wealth. I would like to challenge the ideal that African Americans are lazy or that we don't have a good work ethic. I think there's this perception that...
And I don't view that at all. As I've known a lot of African Americans that work their tail off way more than a lot of the white counterparts, and I think that if that is a perception of African Americans, then I think it definitely needs to change, because some of the hardest workers I know were African Americans, and from what especially in the military, what I saw is just, we all do our part, and sometimes there are lazy white people, and there are some lazy black African Americans, and it's just a sad thing, is when you feel like your race is seen a certain way, and if it is, it definitely needs to change, because it's not the truth.
We're here, we're in America. How are we not doing better for ourselves? So.
I thought I was going to be the only one staying. I was going to be like, oh, I'm about to be like Kanye West. But okay, there's a lot of things we can use as an excuse to hold us back, to not to reach our potential. But it's up to us to look past that. Like me coming from Africa, I came here to better my life, my family. I'm the only one here. And since I have been here, there's a lot of bad things that happen to me. There's also a lot of good things that happen to me. Us African or African American, we need to look past racism and just focus on our own goal. What do we want to achieve? We need to stop using the word racism when we don't get something or when something don't go our way, and just keep trying.
So let me jump in real quick. No disrespect, but racism exists, and I have to acknowledge it. And I can't just ignore it, but what I can do is...
I don't think he was trying to say racism doesn't exist. It's still prevalent. There's still people out there that have racist views, and hopefully it continues to die off, and those racist views continue to become less and less. I don't think he was saying that racism doesn't exist. I think he was saying that the word is just used too much and for things that aren't necessarily what he would classify as racism. But 100% it still exists.
It's not buy into the system. You know, if I want to do something, let me be the entrepreneur. What I believe happened in the 1960s is that we started looking for equal rights, to be equal with other people. And what we stopped doing, and I heard you talk about Tulsa, we stopped using the black-owned businesses. Now, because you guys got to understand, the Fair Housing Act in 1968, I'm 5 years old. That's when we could move off the east side of LA and move into other subcultures. So what I wanted to do at 8 years old was go to IHOP. I didn't want to go to the Ma and Pa restaurant anymore. I wanted to go to, let's go eat at the hotels. So what we did is stop supporting each other and started supporting corporate America. So the racism plays a major part, but we don't have to buy into it.
Now, I 100% agree with that. I am all for everybody supporting everybody. And especially if you're from a, the way I view a lot of African American culture, especially here in America, is that it's a pretty tight community. And if you are willing to uplift that community and support that community because you're a part of it, that community can blossom. It's like I've learned myself, like I don't want to shop at corporate places. So things like Walmart and Target and these big name places, Amazon for instance, I haven't had Amazon in almost 4 years. I don't like to buy from that because I don't want to continue to support that kind of culture. I want to support the smaller businesses here in town because that's what I like. And one way I express that oftentimes is with coffee shops. It's a small thing, but every place will have their own small coffee shops that you can go to, and you're supporting people who ethically source their beans, people who are trying to start their own business, and it just like that does a whole lot more for people than going to a Target or to like a Walmart. As he would say, the mom and pop restaurants instead of the corporate restaurants.
I've been waiting to disagree with you, my brother. I'm waiting patiently. The thing is, even though I want to disagree with you, I get where you're coming from. When I see black people talking about racism, all that stuff, I'm like, what is wrong with these people? You guys have food, you have EBT, all this thing, and you're here shouting about somebody is racist too. Just leave that person and move on. I feel that way. Like, why are they always like complaining? But when Black Lives Matters started happening, like, I sat down, I said, I need to actually know why these people are pained. And if we look at the history, what they've done to them, like if you actually sit down, watch some documentaries, how they were maltreated, I don't think if I'm actually Bonnie, I will forgive those people. I don't care.
And I get where she's coming from. The movement itself was ran by people who misused and misappropriated a lot of the money. But a lot of the demonstrations and things like that really hurt a lot of black-owned businesses because it's not, I don't think African Americans mostly started all of these, but there were white people and other people that came into these riots or to these demonstrations and started causing a big ruckus. And then it turned into a riot, and this started to burn businesses that were mainly in black or African American areas. And so when you do that, you're hurting, as he said, the mom and pop places, the people who are trying to be the entrepreneurs, the people who are trying to create these businesses. And it really, it's a shame because I saw some videos of people talking about it, and it's heartbreaking because that was their livelihood. That was how they were making their money, how they were trying to create a better life for them and their family and their community. And it was heartbreaking.
It's easier for us Africans that were raised in Africa to feel like they're complaining because we were raised through struggle. Like, I barely even have water, and you have water, you're complaining. But then, it's not about the basic necessity or about how we...
She skips over that, right? That's a big point, is they were raised through struggle. They understand the struggle. And so it's easy for them to kind of dismiss it. But it's at the same time, it's they understand stuff that some people in America would never understand. Like my best friend, my roommate, he was Filipino, and he remembers days when they were hungry. He remembers coming home and his dog's not there anymore because they had to have dinner. We are blessed in America. At the end of the day, everyone who lives in America is blessed. And it's hard to see because I've been to other countries, though. I've been to Afghanistan. I've seen how other countries live. And we are blessed beyond measures. And again, it might be hard to see because of what people are going through here. But it's a lot better here than many other countries.
You're complaining, but then it's not about the basic necessity or about how we are raised. We are raised like, I don't want to say way better. We might not have We are raised like, I don't want to say way better. We might not have resources, but there are some way, like our own people will not look down on us or put us behind. So it's in their nature that way. Like they just can't overlook it. And if you sit down and watch everything that the forefathers have been through for you, I changed my mind. No, they need to be angry. However, they should still move forward.
I mean, we have police brutality back home too.
True.
We have, like, if you go to Cameroon and then you see how that police officer treat us and they're black just like us, you're not even gonna believe it, you know. And in Cameroon we have this. Have you heard?
And see, I think this is the kind of dialogue that's needed. It's a different perspective. It shows what we're going through in America is not uniquely American. And that, I think, is something that needs to be shown because we're one of the only ones that put it on our news. It happens a lot of places that we don't hear about it, but we're the only ones that broadcast it. And it's not a bad thing to broadcast it because we do need to bring it to light, but we also have to realize it's not American only. And I think, that's not to excuse the problem, obviously. I think there needs to be changes, but we also have to understand it's not uniquely American.
Have you guys heard of the word like tribalism? So
Yeah, it happens in Nigeria.
Yeah, so we do get oppressed too. And
I agree.
so when I'm saying like we need to like look past that, I'm not saying forget what happened to you guys or me. At the end of the day, we cannot just sit and just grieve on the past. We have to be able to move on, but not forget.
And I look at like the Jewish people, and more recently with the Holocaust and you know, segregation camps and the Japanese here in America and segregation camps. The mindset might be a little bit different, and I don't think it's necessarily comparable, because I think each situation is different, but they're all tragedies that have happened. And I think the mindset, the shift of it to where they're, like he said, looking forward instead of backwards. I don't know. Again, I don't know because I have never experienced it, but it just seems like there are not patterns. There are blueprints for how to, I guess, get back to where you would want to be. And a lot of it is through the Asian cultures and through the Jewish culture of, yes, that was a tragedy. Yes, we lived through it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't define us. We are going to continue to get better. And I just like his mindset a lot. At the end of the day is what I'm saying.
If I could choose a place to live, it would obviously be my country. I love my country. But right now, my country is not the best choice for me. There's a little genocide going on in Cameroon right now. So many innocent lives are being taken. If I was still in my country, the opportunity that I have here, I would not have those opportunities there.
Hip-hop reinforces stereotypes about the black community.
In South Africa, we have our own version of hip-hop, so we call it kwaito. So they would rap in our own language, we call it vernac. So back home, it kind of did reinforce some stereotypes because now when you go out in the world, people will just classify you under one group. And growing up, also looking at American entertainment, looking at the hip hop that's done here, I'm like, oh, well, you're rapping about drugs, you're rapping about this. Of course it's going to happen. Of course you're going to go to jail. But getting older, you see the culture as well of hip hop. I had to understand that there's a culture within that.
I was alive when hip hop started.
Which is a beautiful culture when you look at it. It's the grassroots of it are absolutely wonderful.
And it was during a time where people rapped about what they saw, what they wanted in life. And then it became where people rapped about what they had been through, what they had gotten over. You know, used to sell drugs, used to hurt people, but now this is who they are. And I think it's gotten into now, and in our day and age now, it's where people are glorifying and wanting to pretend that these are the things that they do on a daily basis when it's not. So it went from storytelling to now really it's truly storytelling, but it's unhealthy for our culture.
I don't want to on my radio and all I'm hearing is, I put a bullet in it, something. Like, I'm like, that's what you people do? No, like, sorry. And then it's like, it's all about like, talking about female body type, the booty, the thing, like don't talk about my booty like that. So I don't want to listen to something that portray me as a female that way, or something that is talking about how you put bullets in my head. Like if you actually do not come to America and see for yourself, you will think that most African Americans are carrying guns around and they just shoot randomly, or they just grab your ass or something like that. That's the way the music portray them. And music is a very important element in our society because it influences a lot of people, both young and adult, and then they kind of see all those stuff and they act like that, even though that's not what they really want to be. They act like that and behave like that. Like if all these rappers are your role model, then you want to be like them. You want to be cool too. So in the end, it's about like the people that are packaging the music, and sometimes about trend is what people want to hear.
And I think that's a big thing, is the people who package the music. The reason music goes and becomes the way it is because of what can sell. And so if somebody thinks this is going to sell and they start selling it and it continues to sell, but then somebody else who comes along that may have a more positive message, but they're like, oh, that's not going to sell, they get thrown to the wayside. Whereas that's where I think YouTube is coming into a really good area, is people can change that narrative online and rap with a positive vibe or do hip hop with a positive vibe without having to worry about whether or not it's going to sell, because it's on there for everybody to see. Which for me is fantastic. Like I don't think I would have ever heard of Hobson. I don't think I would have ever heard a lot of the underground people like Dax and different things like that if it wasn't for YouTube. And I think it really allows people to flourish, create the culture that they want to within the community that decides to rally around them, which I think is fantastic. And I appreciate YouTube for that.
The American dream is only for white people.
Again, I see immigrants that do it on a daily basis. So I would disagree with it. I believe
that the American dream is only for white people because it says equal. And when we talk about equal, there's no equality between the 1%, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Trumps, and the people who really run the media and things of that nature. So for black people...
But the majority of America is 99% of the people in America aren't in the 1%. But that's not the American dream. I think if that's what you consider the American dream, no one's going to ever reach it except for those very few people. And you got to look at the American dream differently. The American dream is being able to come, create something, grow something, and support your family with it. Create opportunities for the next generation. I think that to me is what the American dream is.
Growing up in America and living in America.
And one of the people I've recently started to really enjoy is Vivek Ramaswamy, who is running for president. And I like how he's trying to inspire the youth with different, scholarship ideas and different things like that to kind of reignite what the American dream is all about.
We could become rich, we could become wealthy, but we are not on the equal playing field of white America. The system of white supremacy, which is in the law enforcement, which is in the judicial system, which is in the prison industrial association, also in the politics.
I'm in the judicial system, and it is not perfect. Not at all. But I don't know.
We are not equal in any of those terms.
But it's not about equality. That's not what the American dream is. I'm never going to be the 1%. And I'm okay with that. That's not what I strive to be. I strive to be an active member of my community that gives back, that creates opportunities for the future generations, and to support and raise my family with my values. And again, I'm a Christian, and so a lot of my values come from being a Christian and Christianity in general. But the American dream isn't being in the 1%. But
when I was back there when you were speaking, I started thinking, like, could we ever actually, as Black people, have the American dream here in America? And I don't know if we really can, being...
Well, but see, you're then doing a disservice to people like Oprah, doing a disservice to people like Tim Scott, Barack Obama, Clarence Thomas, Ketanji Brown Jackson, KBG. You're doing this disservice to all of these, prominent African Americans that made it by really working hard, and I think they have the American dream, in my opinion.
I'm trying to be careful with my words, but I do think there needs to be a degree of separatism. Like, Black people, we really need to have our own to fully take part in that dream.
This is their system.
Yeah.
Why would we dream of being equal in a system that wasn't designed for us?
But the American dream is not about equality. There are people of all ethnicities and of all races that struggle in America. The American dream is being born in the 5% and ending up in the 50%. That's the American dream. And I think no one is equal in this country. We're all supposed to be judged equally by the law, but I'm never going to be a professional athlete. I'm not equal to professional athletes. This thing of everybody being equal is I'm not going to be a rocket scientist. I'm not super smart. I just worked hard at school and I became a lawyer. But it doesn't mean I'm going to ever be on the Supreme Court. I don't know. To me, and it's a shame because it's about the American dream. The topic is about the American dream. It's not about being equal. And I think it just missed the point there.
The American dream, at least the way that I define it, is, freedom of opportunity, freedom to choose what I want to do, freedom to acquire wealth the same way that anybody else can. Obviously, we're fighting the tides of time on that and our circumstances, but it's hard because it's hard to honor that, but then also want more for myself. And I think that as Black people, we're always teeter-tottering on that line of like, well, am I American? Like, do I get the American dream, or do we just tear all this down and build something new? White people are not the only people entitled to the American dream,
right?
Ever. Yeah. And I think that's why we're all here, because our ancestors.
And that's what the American dream is. We are the melting pot of the world. It's where any race, any ethnicity, any nationality can come in and create a better opportunity for themselves.
Made it so that we can stand here and pursue that American dream.
I wouldn't have been here if it meant that it was not for everyone. I wouldn't have even entered America. You know, I feel like not just African, but other people as well in different countries. And from what I have seen, I've seen other people, even Africans and African Americans, succeeding in their own way. And that's why I feel like you said, you can interpret the American dream in a different way, whatever industry or whatever it is that you're focusing on, because there is a level of opportunity there. There is some way that you can be successful. You know, talking about Trevor Noah, you know, who took over the Daily Show, it wouldn't have been possible for him coming in as an African. He got his American dream. It made us as well, other Africans, believe that it is possible.
The American dream.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I absolutely love that. It's inspiration of the people that got to that place that inspires others to be something like that, to strive for that. I love that.
Dream writes his check. So he gets to...
I don't focus on the 1%. They're the 1% for a reason. I don't care about them. They don't define who I am. That's why, again, it goes back to, you know, supporting your culture, supporting your community in whatever way you can. Going to the mom and pop shops, doing stuff like that to help create a better way. If you're buying Amazon, I don't know if he does. If you go to Walmart, I don't know if he does. If you go to Target, I don't know if he does. But if you're doing those things, you're not helping the problem. You're just doing what you're saying you don't want to do.
Have wealth or whatever it is that he's experiencing, but the American dream is the one who writes his check.
I hate that he has that mindset. For me, I'm a veteran as well. So I also often look for veteran-owned businesses because I want people who are veterans to succeed. It's a very small percentage of Americans that actually get a chance to fight for this country. And I want to make sure that what they're doing is meaningful and that they can succeed, but they're never going to be the 1%. You know, it's just the end of the day, that's what it is. If you look at the American dream or the people that are writing the checks, I'm never going to be a part of the American dream then, because I'm not going to be the ones writing the check. It's just, to me, that's a bad way to look at it.
Not him.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But do you see how we would put it as he had his American dream, even though someone writes his check? But for him, or for some of us looking at it on the other side, that's his American dream, because his goal was to get there. The biggest cultural shock I saw coming here was definitely the lifestyle, because the lifestyle I saw of America, especially Los Angeles, was portrayed as a very rich lifestyle. And of course, I came here as a student, and coming here, living here, and seeing the reality of it, seeing different homeless people, disadvantaged people, was really a cultural shock for me, because I didn't expect to see that. And I guess also the way people were handling each other, because coming in as an African, I thought people were together. But since being here, I saw that there was a huge divide, or there is still a huge divide within the African American community themselves.
If he had stayed in South Africa, would he have the same opportunity that he had here?
No.
Like, you know, so corporate is writing his check, but like us growing up, the reason we move here is because we don't have it better back home. Like for me, I'm the first person ever in my family.
And see, it's the difference here between experience. You know, the Americans have had an experience that's different than the experience of the Africans. And so being from something different and coming in to see what the American dream is, it's going to be completely different for them than it is for the American people. It's just the way it is. It's because they've seen a different struggle than they may have, and they might, you know, have experienced different things that, you know, they haven't. And so it's one of those things. It's a very, you know, interesting debate, like not even debate, but topics to talk about, because it's just the experience comes into play.
In America, everybody else is back home. Everybody is depending on me. All of them, my mom, she's dying to come here. Like, she's willing to do anything just for her to be in America. So for me, when I look at those like little things, I'm like, yeah, American dream is for everybody.
And to me, it's just like, there are certain people that are like F America, that live in America. Like, if you're going to think that, leave, go somewhere else. Let somebody like his mom come here for a better opportunity, because obviously his mom wants to be here. If you don't want to be here, don't be here. At the end of the day, white, black, Asian, whatever nationality, whatever race, whatever ethnicity you are, if you don't want to be here, leave.
You know, like, yeah, we might not have the same opportunity as the white people, but there's still that little chance that a lot of us back home are willing to take just to get here.
I trust law enforcement.
I don't have a thing to say.
All right, can the disagreeer step forward?
I got married to a young lady who did 15 years in prison for a robbery she didn't commit. I myself was incarcerated for 6 months for a burglary that I couldn't have committed because I was in prison. So in 1987, I'm doing 19 months in prison. When I came home in 1988, I was given a burglary charge and I had to sit 6 months. And the judge did not kick it out because there's no way I could have done it. He kicked it out because they didn't serve me the warrant while I was in prison. So I don't trust them. They lie and they do things, and it affects our people. So many people I know who have been wrongfully arrested, wrongfully convicted.
I worked with the Innocence Project. It goes both ways. It's a sad part of our system. We are not perfect by any means as a system, and I think everybody understands that. But I think people try more often than not to do the right thing.
And they actually lie on the stand, so there's no trust.
As you guys know, I am from Richmond, Virginia. It was the capital of the Confederate. I have been brutally abused by the police there. Like, personally, I was at the river on the 4th of July. I don't smoke, I don't do none of that. The police come and arrest me because I look like a drug dealer. Like, they arrested me.
What? The stereotype.
Then when I was in high school, my senior year, my father went to jail over a car accident. And I was left alone at 17 years old. I was grateful. One of my teachers took me in and like raised me. I try to stay away from the police as much as possible.
First of all, they're human beings, and I think that just because you put a badge on doesn't magically bewitch you with like integrity and a desire to actually help the people around you. I think a lot of times police culture comes from police families. It comes from like legacy lines and this whole like kind of like culture about stuff. I mean, I don't trust them any more than I would trust any other person. They haven't earned that necessarily, especially not as an institution. In its purest form, I think it's necessary, but they have a lot of living up to that to do and to make up for if they're gonna be trusted.
I've seen law enforcement here on social media and seeing how they treat people of color, you know, from like hitting them. I mean, George Floyd, you know, rest in peace, but just seeing that from my experience being here, I was scared, you know, like every time I'd see a cop pass by, I'm like, okay, I better make sure I'm driving okay, you know, because I don't want to be stopped, or make sure you're not in any harm's way, you know. But it's sad to feel that pressure every time you see a cop going by. And even if they're trying to help, but I wouldn't even want that help because of what I've been seeing on social media, you know, and also seeing the case of people being wrongfully, you know, taken to prison. That's like unfair. Like, what type of research are you doing before you arrest people?
And I immediately thought about the history of the police too, just tracing that back to slave patrols, which became our modern day police departments. And
the fact that like if you have a felony, you can't vote. Like that to me is like, talk about the loss of the American dream. Like you are a citizen of this country, you should always have a right to vote.
I get that. I get that a lot. I think it depends on the type of felony. Obviously, I think I'd be okay with certain felonies being allowed to vote again, but I don't think all felonies should be allowed to vote again. That's just my opinion.
We are obsessed with race in America.
I think that word obsessed is such an interesting word, and I think that the way that question is framed is almost as if it's like the onus is on us, like we're obsessed with race too much. Like, no, white people are obsessed with race in this country. They've made their laws based on it. They've cast us out because of it. They've like destroyed entire groups of people because of it. So, I mean, we're just living in the ripple effects of the stones that were cast in the pond of history. So we're just reacting to it. So we would rather just be human beings and American citizens and, you know, people that are pursuing an American dream. We'd rather not have to think about race, but that, we did not draw first blood on that.
What else do you expect?
Yeah, like, I
given the
mean,
history?
I'm not
Like,
obsessed.
Yeah.
For me, being in America give me an opportunity to like meet and like discover so many different culture that I would never see if I was in my country. I would just like maybe hear about it on the news. Yes, I agree. I think they are very obsessed with race. Even when you do like an easy application, like it doesn't matter what application you do, they want to know your race. They want to know, you know, why they don't have a category for Africans.
Exactly.
You know?
That's why I'm checking out every time. Like,
Yeah, like they want to know everything.
The thing that pissed me off the most is that when they see you and they be like, oh, you have an accent. Where are you from? Like, who cares where I'm from? Just sell me this thing and let me keep going.
And then when you tell them that you're African,
I think curiosity is not a bad thing. I think people want to know where you're from because they want to know more about who you are, right? I've been asked where I'm from. I think I'm Polish and German, which is a weird. My dad's side was German, my mom's side was Polish, but you know, it's. I think sometimes that could be taken out of context and as a negative, but a lot of times people are curious. They want to know more about who you are and what makes you you.
again, they be like, what country?
Yeah, they're so obsessed with where you're from.
And again, we're a melting pot. We already know we have people from all over the world. We would like to just get to know people.
should be like Wakanda.
Like,
I don't believe that there's an obsession about race in America. I believe that race is a distraction to hide the power, the wealth, and the access to it. So a lot of times there's something put on the table, like a rock being thrown, and
It's a way for people to be divided. It's the same with a religion, race, gender. People in power are doing it so that they can keep that power.
hold my hand, and that's the racism between black and whites, between blacks and Hispanic, and other cultures have come here. We'll talk about race just so that we don't have access to the power and the wealth, and I think it's done on purpose. There's a power that allows us to talk about race if we don't look past it.
some of the question prompts that I see differently, and then when I hear somebody say it, I'm like, that actually makes sense coming from their perspective. So it's been really beautiful having this conversation with you guys. You guys are very knowledgeable, and I've learned a whole lot from each and every one of you today.
Going into
Which I love. That's why I love these
this
series.
with like the title of the series, like African versus African American, I think that like people were gonna come in thinking that we were gonna be like guns blazing, but this is such a beautiful display of unity. I love it. It like gave me so much life today.
Yeah. I agree with them 100%. I enjoyed listening to all of their perspectives. I think they have such a mutual respect for each other. And I think if we can get back to that as Americans, just in general, as having a mutual respect for one another, America would be a lot better of a place. And I agree with him. I think if we as the not 1% decide we're done with this divide, like we want to turn our eyes on you, on the 1%, and make sure that what your power that you have, you don't get to keep, I'm all for it. All for it. Anyways, y'all, I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed watching it. I hope each and every one of y'all out there are having a wonderful day. And I forgot my... If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If not, you can give it a thumbs down. It's not going to hurt my feelings. Or you can give it a thumbs up because it's not going to hurt yours. If you're new or you haven't yet, please do consider subscribing. We're on our way to try to get 100,000 by 2029. I think we might be able to do it, so we'll see. I hope each and every one of you are having a good day, night, or whatever it is, wherever you are, whenever you're watching this. And as always, until next time, YouTube, smile like you mean it from the Bushy Beard.